Okay. Chucky Okobe, Basic Instructions. Good morning, everybody. Today is July 18th, 2019, and I have a special guest with me here today to share her experience with Basic Instructions. It's my pleasure to introduce one of my favorite clients, body language expert, professional speaker, author, and coach. Ladies and gentlemen, the fearless negotiator, Mrs. Mary A. Redmond. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Chucky.
Good morning. Now, as you always like to say, you're not fearless, you just fear less. And after the work we did together, I think it's safe to say you fear even less now.
Correct.
Now, you're renowned as a tough negotiation expert and coach, but like a lot of people do, you had that one thing that created unwarranted levels of fear, and that was stormy weather and tornadoes. So tell me about your relationship with and your fear of tornadoes, how long did you had this phobia, and how it affected you mentally and emotionally?
I live in Kansas, and as most of you know, the Wizard of Oz, that mythical place, occurred and began in Kansas. We're known for our tornadoes. My first experience with a tornado was probably about the age of 7. And back then, I don't know, maybe there were tornado sirens, but we heard, my mom and my 4 siblings and our handyman who was working at the house on a project heard there was a tornado. Mom said, we go to the basement. I remember standing in a little circle with my brothers and sisters, and being so afraid as I heard this sound happening above us in our home. We're in a really old 100-year-old house, and we're in the basement, which is a pretty safe place if you got to be somewhere. And yet the sound was just overwhelming and powerful. It did not hit our house, but that sound has remained with me, and my fear of tornadoes has remained with me all these years since a little kid. I have only had 2 experiences where I was close to tornadoes since then. But whenever weather changes, I get scared. If I see dark, dark clouds building, I'm afraid. One time I was at home alone. My husband was on his way home, and warnings went to the basement. And my sister-in-law got on the phone with me and said, are you guys okay? And I said, I'm not okay. And she said, tornado around you? And I said, it's scary, and I can't stand to be alone. Will you talk to me through the storm? Mm-hmm. So she kept me together until my husband got home, because I was hunkered down in the basement and wouldn't come out. Mm-hmm. When you and I were first together having coffee, Chucky, I couldn't tell, except for in peripheral vision, it was growing dark. And there was a hubbub in the coffee shop. And you said, looks like a storm. And I turned around. Breathing was short. Eyes were darting around. Nervous, frightened. I was trying to think of an alternate escape route. I didn't see one, didn't know if they had a basement. Whatever they had, I wanted to go there right then. And he said, would you like to get rid of that fear? And I thought, well, how could that be possible? How could I lose a fear that I'd had since a little girl?
Right.
But since I, again, live in Kansas, I'm going to face tornadoes pretty frequently. And usually 4 months out of the year is tornado season. And we will head to the basement or hear tornado sirens fairly frequently in the spring, sometimes early summer.
Absolutely. So to overcome and eliminate this phobia, we took you through the Basic Instructions phobia release model. So tell me about your experience going through that process.
I have to apologize that some of it I remember and some of it I don't. Mm-hmm. It only, as you just told me, you said it took 20 minutes. It could have taken a day or 10 minutes. I don't remember. Mm-hmm. I remember that we talked about places I felt really good and very great experiences and a great amount of pride. And the day of my marriage came to me. That was just one of the greatest joys of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Another memory that came was when I received an award. But I didn't tell you any of these things. These were going on inside me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that what you observed was changes in my body language as I had my eyes closed and I pictured these wonderful moments in the past of my life. Another one was I recently took a class on how to bake an apple pie. And there were 12 women who are all corporate executives getting all excited about making our first apple pie from scratch. And what came to me was the picture as I was posed with my apple pie in my hand and how proud I was that I had peeled the apples, made the dough, everything. And so that gave me great joy and pride, and it was a current memory. Mm-hmm. I don't know what other things. Maybe I came up with 5 or 6 during the process. I remember that we seemed like this was a magic button here on my hand.
Yep,
if I rub that magic button, those pictures would come back. And they felt like a warm blanket. It was all is well. Things are going to be fine. And those pictures are comforting and bring me joy. And I'm sure if we had equipment hooked up to me, you'd find my blood pressure changed and dropped, my pulse dropped, my breathing remained normal or even calmer. Because for me, when I remember things that bring me joy, I relax and feel good.
Exactly. So
I don't know what else happened, but there was something to do with the movie theater and withdrawing from the action of the movie. And I'm guessing there was a tornado in the movie.
Yeah.
Or what was going on in the screen. But I could pull away and be distant from it. It didn't have to have me in the center of it, frightened.
Right. So
and I had, just before that, had a terrible experience with a tornado that we heard was on a straight path for us. And my husband was not moving. We were at home. It was maybe 6 or something in the evening. I don't know. And we heard the sirens and we watched TV, and by golly, it looked like it was on a smack course for us. My husband's moving like molasses. It's no big deal. I'll get there. I said, I'm taking stuff to the basement. I'm going to be in the basement. I don't care where you are. I'm going to the basement. Our neighbor, Chris, who's an ex-Marine, came beating on the door. He said, are you all right? If you want to come, I have a concrete storm shelter. I said, Chris, I can't get Dwayne moving. And I'm frightened. And by that time, I'm shallow breathing and crying. And Chris said, Dwayne, we're going now. Put his arm around Dwayne. He's a big guy. I'm under the other arm. And we're heading across the field to Chris's house. And we heard this rumble. Horrible, horrible sound. I found out later the tornado was passing over us. It did a lot. No one was killed, but a lot of damage to houses that were destroyed and trees. And it hit not too far from us.
Yeah, that was back in June, somewhere around June 10th. I know that
before we worked together. And so that was so fresh.
Yeah.
And so overwhelming.
So we did.
I had bigger fear than I'd ever had before, because I thought if that course of that tornado changes and comes down, we're done. We're in an open field, unprotected.
Yeah. So that particular tornado got national attention and, occurred here in Kansas. And that was about June 10th. And then we did the basic instructions phobia release model on June 17th. And when we did that, the process, you said like you lose track of time when you go through these things. That it took about 20 minutes total. So when we finished the process, immediately after I finished guiding you through the process, how did you feel?
I felt calmer, and being sort of ornery, I said, bring on the storm. Let's see how this thing works.
Right.
I wanted to put it to the test. You don't know if something's going to work until you're faced with the next fear. It slams you in the face, and do you respond like you always have? Or do you respond differently? I didn't know I was going to have an opportunity.
So you've had other encounters since then?
Yeah. I was at a dinner for my National Speakers Association. I didn't know there were storm warnings out. I wasn't feeling well. I left the dinner probably 7:30 in the evening, and I'm driving home. I listen to music. I don't listen to news and weather. And I had about a 25-minute drive. I'm driving along the interstate, and all of the sky in front of me is the blackest, scariest mass of clouds and lightning, a lot of lightning, that I had ever seen. And I'm driving along, and then I'm heading down into a valley, and I thought, I'm on my way to hell, and I'm going to die. Because that's my reaction to frightening situations. I'm initially breathing frightened and thinking, okay, think logically. Where can you head for cover? That wasn't the panic response. That was, to me, a logical response. Are there places you know this road so well? Where can you go? And I didn't think of any solid buildings on a Saturday night, because I usually think of going to a bank, under the heavy drive-through thing, because that's concrete. I mean, I'm thinking of logical things, and I started to rub this button on my hand. And I started to picture the apple pie. I started to picture my wedding day. And my breathing calmed. I faced this driving along, and then the rain began, and it was so hard to see, and I thought maybe I should pull over, and I thought, no, you'll make it to home. Kept driving. At one point, I couldn't see any longer, and I was heading onto a two-way road. I pulled over. I'm sitting alone in the parking lot of a housing development. All I heard was rain. I knew there was lightning. I knew there was thunder. I knew there was a possibility of a tornado, but I'm sitting there, and I called my husband. I said, hey, I'm stopped. I'll be home soon. Pretty bad storm. I'm okay.
You're okay.
I'm okay. And got home, and I said, and I'm more like a news reporter who's not excited. I said, well, that was some storm. But there weren't any tornadoes in that one, but the darkness and the amount of lightning was overwhelmingly scary. And yet, I didn't panic. I didn't, as I'll say, freak out. I didn't pull off the road. I didn't have an accident. I just kept driving along, knowing I wanted to get home. Okay, that's what I do.
Right. So that's interesting. You know, we went through the basic instruction phobia release and did that for about 20 minutes. That was back June 17th. You know, you had an opportunity to go into a difficult weather situation and you didn't freak out. You didn't have that phobic reaction, something that you had experienced regularly since you were about 7 years old.
Yeah.
And so when you think about how that basic instructions, phobia release, helped you to maintain a calm state during that time that in the past would have been more challenging, and you would have had a more phobic response. What advice would you give to others who are maybe dealing with mental and emotional blocks, looking to overcome a phobia, or would like to create a similar kind of positive change in their lives?
I thought because it was a little girl who had this experience, that was part of my baggage for the rest of my life, that there was no way to change my perception of that experience, because that was so long ago, and not knowing tools to almost erase the deep fears that came with that experience, because that was a past, and that was who I was going to be for the rest of my life, was someone who was frightened. And this time, and so quickly after our basic instruction, I had to put it to the test. And now I'm kind of like, come on, let's have another storm. Let's see how we do.
Right.
As opposed to the fear-filled, not fearless person. I lived fear-filled. And what was even better was that experience in the car. I was alone, not dependent on someone else to rescue me. I was doing it all by myself. I wasn't having someone talk me through it to get me home, which I've done in the past. I was all alone, and I was okay.
Nice.
And so if you're facing fears, if you're facing things that you think you've had for so long and you'll never get over, and they're stopping you from doing what you want to do in life or to be who you want to be, give it a try. Chucky has been so easy to work with, so comfortable. His voice, because we did this all on Zoom. We weren't sitting in a room together. This was a Zoom experience. And so it works whether you're sitting with him or online. It works in all situations, no matter how big or small your fears are.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, and we're dealing with a bit of a heat wave now, so I know you're looking for more tornadoes and whatnot, but I think we're good for right now.
I think the heat will keep the tornadoes away, but come on, bring me one soon, but don't have it hurt anybody.
Right.
Big storms are okay. I could use a big storm.
Yeah. So the experience you've had tells you that things that you've been holding on to from the past that maybe before you believed that you couldn't overcome, you now understand how quickly and easily you can release these things.
20 minutes. You've got to have 20 minutes to invest in something that changes your life.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you sharing your story with us today, and telling us all about what you've dealt with, and I'm just so happy that you've gotten the results and you've overcome this fear, and now you know that anything that you might be holding on to from the past is something that you do have the ability to overcome.
The tools that I didn't know existed, and I'm glad that I know where I need to go when the next fear, when I accept and realize I have another fear that's keeping me from living the life I'd like to live.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time this morning. Thanks for all the kind words you had to say about me and about basic instructions. And anybody else who may be watching this right now, if you're experiencing any type of phobias or any type of mental or emotional blocks that may be preventing you from doing, and having what it is that you want in your life, just give it a try. Basicinstructions.com. Thank you, Mary. And
thank you, Chucky.
We look forward to working with you again really soon.
I look forward to it. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.